Every organization has a memory. It's the sum of everything it's ever done, every project, every decision, every single piece of data. We call this its corporate memory. And here's the thing. It can either be your most powerful asset, or it can be a massive hidden liability. In this explainer, we're going to dig into why that is. So let me ask you this. Have you ever spent, an hour looking for a file that you know is somewhere on the server? Of course you have. We've all been there. And that sinking feeling, that frustration, it's not just a minor annoyance. It's actually a symptom of a much, much bigger problem. And honestly, the scale of this problem is kind of staggering. Okay, get ready for this number. One study found that 7.5% of all paper documents in a company are lost. And I don't mean just misfiled. I mean they are gone. Forever. Poof. Now think about the billions, maybe trillions of documents out there. That's a mind-boggling amount of knowledge and history just vanishing into thin air. And this constant loss of information, it creates what we could call organizational amnesia. It's like a hidden disease. It's quietly eating away at the company, draining resources, killing innovation, and costing an absolute fortune in the process. Back in the day, this wasn't such a huge crisis. Why? Because memory was physical. It was in file cabinets. And it was human. It was locked away in the minds of employees who stayed at one company for like 30 years. But let's be real, those days are long gone. Today, with people changing jobs so often, every time someone walks out the door, a huge chunk of the company's memory walks out with them. And the cost of all this forgetting? Oh, it's very, very real. Just look at these numbers. We're talking about managers wasting, on average, 3 hours a week just searching for stuff. 3% of all documents are filed wrong. And the cost to fix just one misfiled record, over $120. And in the worst case scenario, the whole operation can just grind to a halt, all because someone can't find a file or has to recreate it from scratch. Now, you'd think the digital age would have solved all this, right? Well, in a lot of ways, it's actually made things even worse. This timeline here, it's basically a graveyard for our corporate data. Think about it. All that crucial info from the 80s, trapped on floppy disks we can't even read anymore. The stuff from the 90s? Locked away on CD-ROMs. Our technology is changing so fast that we're literally making our own history completely inaccessible. And if you want a really stark example of this, just look at what happened with the 1960 US Census data. It was this close to being lost forever. Why? Because decades later, there were only 2 computers left on the entire planet that could still read the tapes it was stored on. 2. One was in a museum, and the other was in Japan. It just goes to show you what a catastrophic risk this is to our collective memory. Okay, I know. That was a lot of doom and gloom, so let's totally flip the script here. Because here's the good news. When you actually solve this problem, your corporate memory transforms from this huge liability into what is, without a doubt, your single most valuable asset. So what are we really talking about when we say corporate memory? Well, simply put, it's all the information in your organization, both what you're using now and all the historical stuff that's actually worth sharing, managing, and holding on to so you can reuse it. The key word there is worth. This isn't about hoarding every last byte of junk data. It's about curating the knowledge that has real future value. And this is what makes information such a unique and powerful asset. Think about any other asset a company has. Money, land, raw materials. What happens when you use them? Well, they get used up, right? They're depleted. But information is the complete opposite. The more you use it, the more you share it, the more you put it into new contexts, it doesn't get used up. It actually becomes more valuable. Yeah, just let that sink in. It's not just a resource that doesn't get depleted, it's a resource that literally grows and thrives with use. It's the only thing in your business that works that way. So the big question becomes, how do we build systems that actually encourage that growth? Well, it all starts with a pretty radical shift in how we think about one simple thing. And here it is. This is the revolutionary shift. We have to stop thinking about a document as a noun, a static thing. Instead, we need to start thinking about it as a verb, as an active process. And I'm telling you, this one idea, it changes absolutely everything. So let's break that down. The old way of thinking, a document is an object. It's a piece of paper in a folder, or maybe a PDF file sitting on a server. The new way, a document is a process. It's the answer to a question, dynamically pulled together on demand from all the little bits of information you have available. There's this old philosophical definition of knowledge that says it's a justified true belief. And that's exactly what this new idea of a document does. Its whole purpose is to provide the justification.
It's the act of gathering up all the evidence you need to prove something is true so you can make a smart decision. So, what does this actually look like in the real world? It's basically a three-step dance. Step 1. A user asks a question. Something simple, like, hey, can I see the transcript for this student? Step 2. The system instantly goes to work, gathering all the tiny atomic pieces of information it needs. The student's name from one database, their course list from another, their grades from somewhere else entirely. And then step 3, it builds the complete document, the transcript, right there on the spot, just for you. The key is that transcript didn't exist as a file a second ago. It was created the moment you asked the question. Okay, so to manage this new, super fluid and dynamic world of information, you're going to need a new kind of expert, right? The old roles, like a traditional librarian or an archivist, they're just not going to cut it anymore. We need a new breed of professional. We need the memory keepers.
And that role, that's what we call a corporate memory manager. But don't think of it as just one single job title. It's really a hybrid role. It's part records manager, part librarian, part archivist, and, crucially, part business strategist, all rolled into one.
And you can really see the evolution of these jobs here. The old focus was always on physical things, boxes of files, collections of books. The new focus? It's all about managing dynamic concepts, like the flow of information, ensuring easy access, and thinking strategically about value. It's not just about preserving the past anymore. It's about strategically documenting what we do today to create more value in the future.
So when you get all of this right, the payoff is just huge. And let's be clear, we're not just talking about having a slightly better filing system here. We're talking about creating a fundamentally different and way more empowered kind of organization.
Think about the two models. The old school command structure, that runs on a hoarding information. The thinking is, knowledge is power, so I'm going to keep it all to myself. But the modern empowered network, it runs on the exact opposite principle, sharing. The goal isn't to control people, it's to create value through collaboration. And a healthy, accessible corporate memory, that is the absolute backbone of that entire network. And that really gets to the heart of what true collaboration is, right? It can only really happen when everyone is playing the same game with the same goals and a shared understanding of what that game is even about. And how do you get that shared understanding? You get it from a shared memory. It's the only way.
So all of this brings us to one final, really important question that you should be asking yourself about your own organization. Is its memory a forgotten archive? A dusty liability full of data you can't access and knowledge that's been lost? Or is it a living, breathing asset that's fueling growth and collaboration, maybe your greatest competitive advantage? Ultimately, the choice is yours.